He'll catch up. Okay, we'll call the Planning Commission meeting to order. First, we'll approve the agenda and minutes from the March 13th meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at them, and
I did.
any corrections, changes?
No.
Motion
Move that we approve the meeting minutes as written
and agenda?
in the agenda, yes,
Is there a
as drafted.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business? And we are on the Messing request for conditional use, 2024-6 CUP. Neva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a conditional use permit for a vacation rental home in the LR2 zone district at 136 Mink Ranch Rd in Lutsen. The property is 2.6 acres in size. It's contained entirely within the Lutsen Town Central Residential Incentive District. This vacation rental use is a listed conditional use in the zone district, and it's a non-shoreland. The applicant, Vlad Messing, is requesting to have a vacation rental unit for his off-grid cabin at 136 Mink Ranch Road. The cabin rental unit would host up to 4 guests, and 2 guest vehicles during rentals. The cabin is off-grid with carry-in water only and about privy. For zoning considerations, this property, as I said before, is in the Lutsen Town Center Residential Incentive District. The principal purpose of this district is to provide for residential uses at a higher density, generally adjacent to or near developed areas, major roadways, and other sources of services. Multiple residential units are also allowed on a conditional use basis in this district, and vacation rental homes are a listed conditional use. I provided a map of the zoning map of this area. As you'll see, it's quite a mixture of different zone districts in that area that was adopted in Lutsen Town Center plan. For site conditions, the property has received land use permits for the development of the cabin and a guest cabin yurt. The vacation rental is proposed for the cabin to accommodate 4 guests. Wetlands are present on the site, however, all construction has complied with wetland regulations. A vault privy is on site to manage sewage. The application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on April 12th. 31 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners, Lutsen Township, as well as county departments. We received no public comments during the written comment period. A technical memo was provided by Mitch Everson stating that the vaulted outhouse was installed in 2021 and there are permitting requirements for gray water sewage treatment. Staff consideration for findings of fact. Conditional use permit may be granted upon the following criteria as outlined for the Cook County zoning ordinance. The use conforms to the land use or comprehensive plan for the county. The Cook County Land Use Guide Plan states in the Cook County in 2035 goals, there's a commercial goal to provide commercial facilities to meet the needs of residents and visitors, with policy 39 stating, encourage expanded development of tourist, lodging, commercial services, worker housing, and amenities to strengthen the county as a tourism destination. Finding number 2, the use is compatible with the existing neighborhood. Mink Ranch Road is a dead-end road, which terminates at the Woodland Foothills residential development. Number 3, the use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement in the surrounding area of uses permitted by right in the zone district. Vacation rental units, a smaller size unit, should not have a negative impact to the surrounding uses. The area surrounding this parcel is relatively undeveloped, with exception to the Woodland Foothills housing development. And number 4, the location and character of the proposed use is considered to be consistent with the desirable pattern of development for the area. Lutsen is a resort community with large-scale destination resorts and recreation facilities, concentrations of year-round and seasonal housing, and a small general business complex. Staff recommendation for consideration. The proposed use appears non-problematic with surrounding land use patterns and zoning. The Planning Commission should consider the potential findings listed above and modify, amend, or adopt as they determine appropriate after the public hearing for recommendation to the County Board of Commissioners. The following conditions could be considered. Number 1, the property shall be in compliance with Minnesota State Rule 7080 and the Cook County Septic Ordinance. Number 2, all local, state, and federal regulations must be adhered to, including the annual vacation rental license. Number 3, the fire number and address sign shall be installed prior to rental. And number 4, a CUP is valid for one vacation rental unit as identified in the CUP application with no more than 4 occupants. An amendment to the CUP shall be required for any expansion or intensification of the use, including an increase in bedrooms or dwelling units.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of the Messing request? Is anyone here? No? Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak regarding this request? Hearing none, we'll close it to the public and talk to the board. Hi. Welcome. Comments?
I did go out there and drive past and take a look at it.
Mhm.
And it's, I think Neva's findings are pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It's in keeping with the neighborhood in terms of what's going on. It's built, the house, the privy, everything is in keeping with what we would expect.
Okay. Anyone else have
I also
questions or
went out there and
comments?
it was just, he already had them both up. It's nice. I mean, for what he's doing, I don't have any problem with it at all.
Okay. Charlie? No?
I see no issues.
I even talked to the owner, decent guy.
It's pretty much what I saw when I drove by too. It would be nice to have a fire number.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't go by it a couple days.
And the conditional use permit goes away when ownership changes? It stays with, so someone can buy it and treat it as a vacation rental?
So long
Okay.
as those conditions are adhered to.
Right,
Right.
okay. Anyone care to make a motion
I'll make a motion to approve
with the
with the
condition?
conditions.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the Poplar River Ridge Condo Association request. 2024-1P Poplar River Ridge Third Amendment packet. And you're representing the Poplar River.
Yes, I'm on the
Okay.
board.
All right, and Neva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a concurrent review of the preliminary and final plat for the Poplar River Ridge, a Condominium CIC number 10 Third Amendment, to add land currently within the Poplar River Ridge Condo Association plat, which is currently additional real estate, to be added into the plat as a common element and be owned as a common interest for the owners of the units. The properties are about 2.95 acres in size, contained within the Resort Commercial Residential Zone District. This is a part of a planned unit development which has gone through previous permitting, and these parcels are within the North Shore Management Zone of Lake Superior in the Poplar River shoreline area. For general project description, the Poplar River Ridge Condo Association is seeking to bring land into the planned unit development to be jointly owned as common elements within the community. The land was previously owned by a separate entity and only recently was purchased by the association. To bring this land into common ownership as a common element, the preliminary and final plat procedures are required to be followed. However, it should be noted that this proposal does not include any new units or improvements. For zoning considerations and background, this development has been approved and constructed in phases from 1998 to 2003, all of which were reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners. This is a request simply to add additional land into the planned unit development for use as common space. For site conditions and considerations, the subject parcels are strips of land buffers approximately 100 to 160 feet wide between the MnDOT right-of-way and the platted development. The land was cleared by the previous owners and addressed through enforcement action through Land Services Department in 2022. This is an established common interest community with all infrastructure in place and no development proposed. Again, there will be no increase in density or development from this proposed amendment to the plat. Public noticing, the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on April 12th. 96 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments, the North Shore Management Board, county surveyor, and DNR hydrologist. No written comments were received in land services from adjoining property owners. Wayne Henschey, the county surveyor, provided a technical review on behalf of the county with corrections for the preliminary and final plat. Additionally, to add on to the written narrative, I did receive notice from MnDOT land surveyor saying that they recognize that the right-of-way is accurately depicted on the plat proposed. So for staff recommendations for consideration, the county surveyor has provided technical comments for the preliminary and final plat. After the corrections have been made, there should be no remaining issues to be addressed. The preliminary and final plat have been noticed concurrently for efficient processing due to the nature of this request. So there's two different sets of recommendations. So for the preliminary plat, its recommended condition of approval is that the plat correction shall be made in response to the recommendations of Wayne Henshey. And the final plat recommendations are that the comments from Wayne Henshey must be incorporated into the final plat before it goes to the county board for final approval, and all declarations must be filed with the county recorder.
Thank you. And do you wish to speak regarding the request?
Yeah, I'll just say a couple things. Charlie Troval here representing North Shore Land Surveying. Yeah, kind of like Neva laid it out, it's just adding common element into this existing plat from additional real estate that was already part of the plats right from the beginning. It's just how CIC plats work, I guess. If you got questions on that, I can answer that later. As far as the county surveyor comments, we made all those changes. We haven't forwarded them on to Wayne yet until we make sure there isn't anything else that needs to be addressed after this meeting, and then we'll start working on going through all that list with Wayne to make sure he has his things. Other than that, I guess, yeah, we're just here to answer any questions as you guys talk through it, so.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this request? Okay, we'll close it to the public comment. And talk to the board.
It's a pretty straightforward, simple adjustment to the
Right,
survey plat, and the final plat. So,
right.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Straightforward.
and the condition is already in place that corrections have to be completed before it goes to the county commissioners. I'm sure land use will take care of that.
Okay. Any other comments?
I agree with everything being said.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. I need a motion.
Motion to approve with the, well, two conditions, but they're, anyway.
I'll second it.
And there's a second. Any further?
I'll second it.
Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have the preliminary plat on the county board agenda for the second county board meeting this month. And if you will make it for next week.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
A motion to
Yeah.
adjourn?
I'll second.
It's kind
All in
of,
favor?
I mean, normally we don't do a lot of that till after all that
Planning
stuff.
commission is
and
adjourned.
Before it goes to recording, so I guess we'll chat about that, order stuff.
Probably don't need a break between the two meetings. Okay. Okay, we'll call the Board of Adjustment to order. We do have a quorum. And we need approval for the agenda and the minutes for the April 10th meeting.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to new business. Vicky and Tim Severin, 2024-5V, request for a variance. Neva?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a variance request for relief from the Cook County zoning ordinance to replace a principal structure at a reduced ordinary high water level or shoreline setback for 80 feet from the Caribou Lake, where the minimum of 100 feet is required on a substandard lot of record, located at 26 White Sky Trail in Lutsen. The applicant's property includes 0.55 acres with approximately 131 feet of Caribou Lake shoreline. The parcel is contained entirely within the Lakeshore Residential Zone District. Newly created lots within the zone district must be 1 acre in size and 150 feet wide. Caribou Lake is classified as a recreational development lake. For general project description, the applicants, Timothy and Vicki Esviden, are requesting a variance to replace the existing 18 by 26 foot dry cabin with a 32 by 26 foot cabin with pressurized plumbing and a 10 by 26 screen porch. The new cabin and porch will be placed at the same setback as the current cabin, which is 80 feet from the lake, and have the same width as the existing cabin, 26 feet wide. The proposed expansion will be an increase in height to add a loft so the structure will be 26 feet tall, the addition of the screen porch on the front side of the cabin, and an increase in length away from the lake. Most of the cabin expansion will occur outside of the 100-foot lake setback. The new cabin will have pressurized plumbing and be connected to the existing septic system. I included the ordinance language for the substandard lot requirements. So the reason this variance also includes relief from that standard is because the structure setbacks can't be met. There is also a map on page 8 of 44 of your packet. One thing that is a little tricky is that our parcel lines are not accurately depicted on the county GIS mapping system. So I tried to draw it out to the best of my ability, but I really wanted to emphasize that that orange line there is my drawing. So it's mostly just to represent this parcel, because if you look at it on the county map, it offsets, and it's very confusing which parcel we're looking at. I also want to mention that this map, the orientation is not a north arrow looking up. The north arrow is actually looking to the right. So just kind of keep that in mind as you look through some photos. You'll see that north arrow in the top left corner there. The actual plat map is included on the next page, and you'll see that this is lot 5 of that plat map. For background, the White Sky plat was created from state platted lots in 1989, which created 37 residential properties adjacent to Caribou Lake. At last count, 23 variances have been applied to White Sky properties. Most of those variances have focused on relief from the shoreline or White Sky Trail setbacks. The property currently has the dry cabin. County assessor's records indicates that this cabin was built in 1963 prior to zoning regulations. There is also a garage on the property that was permitted and built in 2015, meeting all setbacks. The garage has living quarters in the upper level, a bathroom and clothes washer, and is connected to the septic system. Additionally, there is a permitted composting toilet within an outhouse, and the septic tank is downhill from the garage, and waste is pumped to the mound. For site conditions and considerations, the shoreline setback averaging calculation was done for this request and supports a variance of at least 90 feet from the shoreline when taking into consideration neighboring properties' developments. The actual calculations are on page 15 at the end of this report. For septic, the property is served by a septic system which was installed in 2015. The septic tank is currently only connected to the garage. The septic mound is located across White Sky Trail. Mitch Everson, the county environmental health specialist, has confirmed there is a valid certificate of compliance through 2025, after which time a new compliance inspection will be required. The design flow of the septic system is for 2 bedrooms. Mitch Everson has determined that the proposed use of the garage for overflow guests will be adequately served by the current septic system. However, he did note that if the garage living quarters were to be used full-time or as a vacation rental, some type of other use, that the current septic system would not be sized correctly to serve the increased use. Wetlands are not an issue driving the need for the variance. For slope, the property is sloped with an approximate 13% slope between the septic tank and the current cabin. There are no bluff or steep slopes on the property. The applicant cites the slope behind the cabin as a practical difficulty requiring a variance relief. However, expansion into this area will require excavation. The 100-foot setback from the lake is approximately located just on the back side of the current cabin. The building at 100 feet setback would require fill and or excavation activities. There is a picture on page 11 of 44 of the staff narrative where I put in some annotations to try to give some reference points. So on the right side of that picture, you'll see the 2015 garage at the top of the hill. Then the septic tank is just on a terrace just below that garage. Then over on the far left-hand side of the picture, you'll see just a little bit of the current cabin. And then I kind of highlighted the back side of that cabin. So the lake would be on the far left side of that picture. And then this is also showing that 13% slope between the cabin and the septic tank. For stormwater management, the Cook County zoning ordinance outlines requirements for stormwater management regulations, particularly in shoreline areas. So the kind of main point here is that impervious surface coverage on lots in shoreline areas must not exceed 25% of lot area, as per standard identified in B1. The existing shoreline vegetation is primarily a thin row of mature trees, providing some visual screening from the lake. Although there is minimal vegetation, there is naturally occurring berm, likely from ice ridges, that has formed along the shoreline that slows water runoff into the lake. The driveway turnaround and parking area is in the shoreline setback area and within the shore impact area. This results in compacted soils which do not easily allow for infiltration of water runoff. Current regulations prohibit driveways and parking areas within the shoreline setback area. However, this appears to be a grandfathered-in parking area relative to the existing cabin. There are options to improve this layout, such as planting a vegetative buffer, relocating the parking area further uphill, diverting water runoff into rain gardens. These actions would also decrease the amount of impervious surface coverage. There are photos on page 13 of 44 of the packet that show looking towards the lake, that driveway ending down by the lake, and then there's also a well down by the lake. For impervious surface coverage, the definition of impervious surface is a surface that has been compacted or covered with a layer of material so that it is highly resistant to infiltration by water. Impervious surfaces include roofs, solid decks, patios, and both paved and compacted gravel driveways and parking areas. Lot impervious surface coverage is restricted to 25% of the lot. The 0.55 acre parcel will need to be covered by less than 5,989 square feet to remain in compliance with shoreline regulations. So on page 14 of 44 of the packet is my calculations to the best of my ability with the resources available to generally calculate the impervious surface coverage, and then the calculations on that map are on the table on page 15 of the packet. So with this, you'll see the cabin, the garage with living quarters, the driveway and parking areas, all add up to a square footage pretty close to that 25% coverage maximum. The length of the driveway with the parking area and vehicle turnaround increases the impervious surface coverage significantly relative to the lot size, in addition to the parking pull-up area up by White Sky Trail. Estimates indicate that current development on the lot is within the 25% lot coverage requirements. Proposed development may exceed the 25% lot coverage requirements based on draft calculations. For public noticing, the application was legally noticed in the Cook County News Herald on April 11th. 21 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners as well as county departments, Lutsen Township, Cook County Coalition of Lake Association, and the DNR hydrologist. We received the following comments during the written comment period. Neighbors Sandy and Jack McHugh, they support the request, citing substandard lot difficulties and a reasonable setback distance proposed. Robert Hewitt, they support the request. And the Caribou Lake Property Owners Association expressed concerns with the variance request and septic system, request the cabin be placed further back from the lake than the proposed 80 feet, citing the available space between the cabin and the septic tank, expresses the area behind the cabin can be built on since that's where the cabin expansion is proposed, and concerns regarding increased runoff into the lake. There were 2 technical memos provided, one from Cook County Environmental Health Specialist Mitch Everson. He provided a technical memo indicating that there is a valid certificate of compliance and that the current septic can accommodate the proposed use. And Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District Technician Max Tossenson provided a technical memo explaining the conservation efforts of the Lake Association relative to improve water quality trends on the lake, in part to do good land owner stewardship. The technical memo supports land use practices to mitigate development's impacts on the lake, including stormwater direction, removal of vegetation or maintenance of vegetation, and maintaining a vegetative buffer. Added on to that Soil and Water District memo, I did connect with Max just before this meeting. He did a site visit this afternoon with the property owners. And he thought that a 25 to 30 foot vegetative buffer would be adequate for this site. He thought that there was some pretty good infiltration happening by the natural soils in this area. And he talked with the landowners about doing some water bars along the driveway to divert water earlier up in the driveway area. So he has some pretty good recommendations to work with them to improve some of that water runoff. So staff consideration for facts and findings. These are draft findings based on the facts presented to begin discussions. These may be amended or altered based on the discussion and findings of the Board of Adjustment. Number 1, the variance is consistent with the goals and policies of the Comprehensive Land Use Guide Plan and in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance and other Cook County official controls. The setback of this lake is 100 feet from recreational development lakes, and the applicants are proposing an 80-foot setback from Caribou Lake. The shoreline setback averaging calculation calculated a 90-foot setback when compared to adjacent property owners. And the Cook County Land Use Guide Plan has a policy that land use related decisions shall recognize the need to duly consider the rights and responsibilities of the general public good with the corresponding rights and responsibilities of the individual. The proposed use of the property is allowed in the land use district in which the property is located. The parcel is zoned Lakeshore Residential. Residential uses are a permitted use in the zone district. The property owner is proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County zoning ordinance. The property owner does propose to use the property in a reasonable manner, which is a residential use. The landowner has proposed a building site that is outside of the shore impact zone and setbacks the same distance as the existing cabin. Expansion from the current development will be a modest increase in height, the addition of a screen porch, and additional living space expanded the length of the building, primarily outside of the shoreline setback area. The property owner has established that the practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Number one, the cabin was placed prior to current zoning regulations. The property owner is proposing to expand the cabin in a manner with minimal encroachment into the lakeshore setback. Number two, the property owner is proposing to use the original cabin's existing location for the new cabin. This location has an approximate 13% slope on the backside, and the expansion will require excavation to build a new cabin into the hillside. Number three, the lot is a legal lot of record as a part of the White Sky plat. Approving the variance will maintain the essential character of the locality. The proposed cabin will maintain the same width and setback as the current cabin. A lower profile replacement cabin granted a variance with conditions at the 80-foot setback will have less visual impact to the lake than a conforming setback located further uphill and allowed a greater height allowance per the ordinance standards. The property owner has established the practical difficulty involves more than economic considerations alone. Economic considerations are not the reason for the variance request. For staff recommendations for consideration, Minnesota state statutes allow for non-conforming structures such as this to be continued through repair, replacement, restoration, maintenance, or improvement, but does not include the inherent right to expansion. The relief request from the zoning ordinance requirements is a relatively modest request, which can be summarized as an increase in height to add a loft, an addition of a porch and inside living space away from the lake, no increase in the shoreline setback encroachment, which maintains the 80-foot setback, and relief to build on a substandard lot. Items to be addressed through this discussion: the impervious surface coverage, preliminary measurements from staff using desktop software indicate that the lot is nearing the 25% impervious surface coverage maximum, and that the proposed structure will exceed the 25% maximum. Relocation of driveway and parking area near the lake, and the shoreline buffer restoration. The Board of Adjustment has some of the following options available for discussion. The variance could be denied if findings identify no practical difficulty is present. The variance application could be tabled pending additional technical information, a survey to show all development on the lot with impervious surface coverage calculations and setback for locations of the proposed development. The survey could show alternative designs to relocate the parking area outside of the shoreline setback area and locations for proposed shoreline buffer planting. Other additional information could be vegetative buffer plan to show how the shoreline buffer will be improved. Coordination with the Soil and Water Conservation District could provide a planting plan with maintenance requirements to ensure the vegetative buffer or rain garden have successful establishments. The Cook County SWCD will be conducting, or did conduct a site visit today. The variance could be approved with conditions. If the Board of Adjustment finds that there's adequate findings to approve the variance request, the following conditions may be considered. Number one, the property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 and the Cook County septic requirements. No component of the proposed construction may be closer than 80 feet from the ordinary high water level of Caribou Lake. The structure shall have no more than 24 feet in height. A gutter catchment system or vegetation conducive to water retention shall be included with all new or proposed structures to divert precipitation and snow melts away from Caribou Lake. The shore impact zone, 50 feet from the vegetation line, shall be restored with native planting buffer. I would probably amend that to 25 feet per my recent discussion with the SWC technician. The driveway or parking area must be relocated outside of the structure setback from the shoreline. I think that could probably not be quite 100 feet, up for discussion. The impervious surface coverage as defined in section 2.44 must remain below the 25% maximum allowance, and all water runoff from the driveway and parking area shall be diverted into a rain garden or other catchment area to allow infiltration before entering Caribou Lake.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak from the public? Would you like to come to the microphone? State your name and address, please, into the microphone.
My name is Tim Swaven. Address is, home address is 19600 63rd Avenue North in Corcoran.
Okay.
We're the property owners of the project we're talking about. I just have a few comments I want to address towards the letter from the Caribou Lake Property Owners Association. They had some concerns, and Neva's already touched on a couple of these, so I'll try and be as quick as I can. The first one was they were concerned about the septic system, and as Neva mentioned, we do have a letter from Mitch that says that the septic system should be adequate for the project, and it's less than 10 years old, so it doesn't need an inspection.
So how many bedrooms are in the new cabin that you're,
One.
okay?
Another concern was moving it back helps reduce the visibility of the cabin from the lake. A lot of our shoreline is wooded, so I'm not sure that that's really a major concern, at least in my mind. The main one is there's a comment regarding the excavation needed to install the cabin. We would like to keep, or excuse me, have the new cabin be at the same elevation as the existing cabin. And in order to accomplish that, as we build back into the hill, we've got to dig into the hill to make it keep that elevation. If we're granted the variance, we only have to go into the hill about 20 feet. And if we're not granted the variance, we'll have to pretty much go the whole length of the cabin, the 40 feet into the hill. The first 20 feet is not nearly as steep as the next 20 feet, so we're talking about excavating, 3 feet of soil in the first 20 feet and 5 or 6 in the back 20. So if we can receive the variance, it'll be a lot less digging and disturbance and taking out more of the existing vegetation. There's also a couple trees that would have to go if we're forced to go back that full distance. And another item, I just verified some measurements when we were up there today. If we're not granted the variance, we're going to end up bumping into the existing septic tanks. We're working with Mike Rose, and in talking to him, I guess we have to be at least 10 feet away from the tanks. So we're kind of get squished there. We did meet with Max this afternoon to discuss, mitigating the runoff issues on the property. I mentioned bumping into the septic tanks. I guess if we're not granted the variance and we have, we might have to consider turning the cabin sideways so the wider view is at the lake. And if, part of their concerns was the view from the lake, if we turn it sideways, it's going to be a lot more visible from the lake. I guess in conclusion, I would say, we're not asking to move closer to the lake, only to stay where we are. And I don't think this is an unreasonable request, especially since several adjacent cabins are closer than 80 feet. One is at 51 feet, and there's another one at 41 feet. As Neva mentioned, there were no objections from the neighbors. We did receive 2 real nice letters that they were in support of it. So, all things considered, I still feel the best place for the cabin with the least impact to the property is using the existing footprint. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak from the audience? Okay, we'll close the public comment and go to the board.
Couple of things. One, Mr. Maxwell, I appreciate you doing the adjustment on the map. It is frustrating when we get it and the GIS system is offset it. In my place, it made me look like I owned property across the road. And it also resulted in some erroneous measurements that I had to clear with the office, so I appreciate your diligence on that. And I noted the average setback. With respect to the Caribou Lake Association, I don't recall that we see a lot of letters from lake associations, but I do recall that everything we see from Caribou Lake Association is against something. So I take it with that grain of salt, right? The fact is, I live on Caribou Lake. There are 93 homes that are visible from the lake. That we stress about someone else building a home on that lake and it's visible from the lake. A lot of the lots that you're on are private. Used to be, they were the 99-year lease license or leases. And almost every cabin on that side of the lake is within 100 feet of the lake. The newer ones that have been built back a little bit further, and some others from there to add to that. So I'm looking at the request. There were other things that that the land use office asked about in terms of vegetative buffers and water bars. Are you amenable to those things as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's about all I had for questions and comments.
Okay, and you visited the site?
I did visit the site.
And Charlie, what's your comment?
Just looking at the map here and looking at proposed condition 6, I'm thinking if we, instead of having to remove the driveway all the way to 100 feet from the lake, if we went to an 80-foot buffer, looks like that would keep us well within the maximum calculations and probably still function well. Do you guys follow what I'm saying and agree with that? Or
Shortening the driveway.
shortening the driveway, basically bringing the parking area that you got in front of the cabin up flush to the front of the cabin.
I certainly think that would be doable, yeah.
And that's in regards to the impervious
Yes.
surfaces?
Yep.
Because I think that's kind of important in keeping the motor oils and stuff
Yeah,
away
I mean,
from the
it's
lake.
nice to still be able to drive up to the cabin and put some groceries in or whatever, but then back up and park by the garage or whatever is, so.
Yeah, we bought the cabin, was it 05?
Oh, one.
And it was a lot like it is now, but over the years, a lot of that gravel has been steadily migrating down towards the lake. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's time to clean that up and try and get some plants established in that area.
So I think with that, bringing that back up by the cabin, and then I appreciate what you said about the excavation and going that much deeper into the hill does create quite a bit of extra impact. So I guess I'm really comfortable with keeping it in the proposed footprint
Okay.
that they're proposing.
Linda?
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I think using the existing footprint is reasonable and staying out of additional excavation into the hill.
And the only question I have, is the porch going on the front of the cabin in the 80-foot setback? Is the cabin
Yeah,
going any further than the 80-foot setback?
no, the porch would be the start of the 80 feet, and then the cabin's behind that.
Okay. Is there a reason the porch couldn't go on the side, other than,
That's the best view of the lake on that
I know,
front of the cabin.
yeah.
What are
Okay.
you suggesting if we put it on the side?
Well, you're getting closer to the setback. If the porch went over on the side,
I see.
it would be at the 90-foot, or thereabouts. I don't know what the width or the depth of the porch is.
You have to think about that one. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Most of those cabins have their porches on the front.
I know.
Everybody's looking at the lake, so
Want and need,
10 feet is,
Functional.
so, all
And
right.
given that it is, that front is the existing footprint,
Yeah,
I think we're.
I think it's reasonable to leave it.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
The only other thing I had was looking at item 3 in the recommendations. the 24-foot, is there a way to approximate that a little bit? Because once they do the digging, set the foundation, the rest of it, I wouldn't want them being, hauled back in here because they were 25 feet and 3 inches, right? It's not anybody of us could eyeball it and tell the difference, but I know that I got measured after I built, so I'm pretty sure they do too. So we want to make sure that they at least have some latitude.
You're talking about the height of the
Correct.
cabin? Okay.
Yeah.
24 feet.
Yeah, I know that's your plan. It's just that I also know that, the slab gets poured and things happen and just, suddenly you're
Not
8
to
inches off,
exceed.
10 inches, right?
Not to
Not to
exceed
26 or?
25?
Yeah, it's,
That also gives a little latitude as far as that excavation in the back, if you find some
bedrock and
rock,
stuff, yeah.
it gives a little flexibility, so.
So I'd say not to exceed,
26.
what do we got it at,
26.
24? 26, is that good?
Comfortable with that.
And the existing cabin is going to go away.
Yes, we kind of struggle with that. It's got a lot of memories, but it's no insulation, no running water. So yeah, there isn't much that we can salvage there.
Okay. Okay, it's not going to appear on another place on the lot.
No.
Okay,
No, ma'am.
all right. Is there a motion?
So I did one other comment.
Okay,
Just to make sure, I personally think the SWCD recommendation at 25 feet, I've got no reason to counter that, and I think that's fair. So changing that one to 25.
okay.
So we've edited number 3, 5, and 6.
Yes.
We captured all the edits for 3, 5, and 6.
Can I read it back to you?
Please.
So I have number 3, the structure shall not exceed 26 feet in height.
Okay.
Number 5, the shoreline buffer, a 25-foot shoreline buffer shall be restored to native planting. And then the driveway parking area must be relocated outside of relocated to meet 80 feet from the shoreline. Does that sound all right?
And
Did we want to include something about the impervious surface coverage?
Right.
So what we're
Driveway
doing
would
is
be
reducing the
shortened to-
driveway by 20 feet.
That's what number 6 addresses.
that's
that.
number
So
s-
that's-
Oh, right, got it, okay.
Okay. Now a motion, anyone?
I would motion to approve with the 8 conditions as we just stated them.
Yep, and I'll second.
And any further discussion? Yes, Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. If we could add in there, adopting the findings of fact that were presented by the staff.
Certainly.
Yes.
We should actually go back and look at those.
Who's got to do this?
And then we'll go through the checklist.
Well, that would actually take
Yeah.
take that place of going through the checklist if you adopt those.
It's the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So in my motion, I would adopt the staff's findings of fact.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So we
and I'll
don't need to
second.
do that. That's seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now we need to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Good deal.
Sorry I was late, everybody. I apologize.
Well, they said you were on a job
also
site.